A lot of people have been asking me about the books that I read for my research about the Israelite origins of us, the Ewe people. And so I decided to take you through my favorites list on one of my favorite websites, which is archive.org. I don't know if you have access to this website in Ghana or anywhere else outside the US, but I'll be sharing the link to my favorite list in the comment section. So you can get it from there and go directly to my list. Okay. All right. So let's go through it. Now, this list is not all the books that I read. I do have a physical library where I also have my favorite list that I order and keep on my physical library at home. I also have a reading list on Google Books. That's another quick way to find books, to read books for free, is Google Books. Archive.org gives you the opportunity to read these old books for free as well. You can always give a little donation in support, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so let's go through the list. The first one on here is Africa Being an Accurate Description. This is a really good one. It's old, 1670, by John Ogilvy. It's a very big book, so you really need to find time. The good thing about this website also is that you can actually listen to the audio version of the books. So that's very helpful as well, especially if you're on the go and you just don't have time to sit down. All right, but I will say, you get more value if you sit down and read the book because the details stick in your mind better. The Lost Tribes, A Myth by Alan Godbey. This one is a good one as well. He debunks the theory that, the 12 tribes of ancient Israel are lost, and he traces them into various parts of the world and also into Africa. And he actually has a map where he has on the map the Home Jews, and he has Lam Lam Jews, which are also in West Africa. Uh, by Jews, he's talking about the ancient Israelites. He also has Benai Ephraim, which some of the Yorubas trace their ancestry to. A Voyage to Guinea by John Atkins. This one is a good one as well. He compares the 36 villages of Alada, which was an epic kingdom. He compares those to the 12 tribes of ancient Israel. It's a good book, but you should know that John Atkins was a very prominent slave trader. He even went as far as pirating other slave ships. The book The Fortunes of Africa by Martin Meredith talks about that, where some Portuguese slavers were also complaining that Atkins pirated their ship and took their human cargo. This was one of the main contributing factors to the loss of identity among our brothers and sisters who were taken into other lands. Because when one slave ship pirates another, they do not declare the people as having come from the places where they were originally taken by the first ship. They falsify their documents and say and report them as coming from the areas that their government, their crown, in this case the British Crown, had given license for them to capture people to do human trafficking at. You understand? So the pirating really did a number on the loss of identity as well. The Zondervan Bible Dictionary, 1963 edition. This one is good. Notably for Ham, under Ham, it says Ham is a progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. For us, that means that the Negroes must come from Shem, right? So, meaning the Negroes must come from Shem. If they are not Ham, they are clearly not Japheth, so they must be Shemites. But there are some schools of thought that say that at the time when they were writing the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, they did not consider the Negroes as being human. So they didn't put them in either Ham, Shem, or Japheth. But to us, this means that the Negroes were not Hamites. They were obviously Shemites, because we know that we are human. In fact, we are more human than all of them. Anyway, a history of the Jews. This one, I just saved it here so I can read it later. I haven't read it yet. Okay. History of the Gold Coast and Asante. This is a very important book for every Ebe, every Ga person, every Akan person, and all of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And it's very important for every Northerner as well. Reverend Carl Christian Reindorf, his mother was a Ga lady and his father was a European, was a white European. He grew up being taught under the Basel Missionary Organization on the Gold Coast. And so he learned to read and write, and he was instrumental in translating the Bible from English into the Ga language. Okay, so yeah, he knew what he was talking about. From Babylon to Timbuktu, this one is a good one as well. Talks about the Israelite origins of the Africans, of the sub-Saharan African, namely the people of Timbuktu, sub-Saharan Africans. The complete works of Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews. Yes, absolutely. This one is a very good one. Josephus talks about the true Israelites, the true Jews being dark complexion, being black, and also talks about how they fled mostly into Africa. He also gives a description of what Yesu, also known as Yeshua or Jesus, would have looked like, and he was a black, darker person. He was a dark person. Okay, Africa Remembered. I don't think I've read this one yet, but it's on my list. Bulletin de la Société Kédival de Géographie. This one, I really wanted the 1895 edition, and I couldn't find it on here on archive.org. So I ordered it from Amazon, but I saved this edition, this 1880 edition, for future reference. Gender, Ethnicity, and Social Change by Sandra Green. Sandra Green is an important author because she writes a lot about the slave coast, writes a lot about, the West Africans in general. West African religion, that's a good one, about Akan and Ewe religious traditions. Mission from Cape Coast Castle to Ashanti is a good one too. I have this one on my bookshelf as well. African States and Rulers. The African States and Rulers by John Stewart. This one is very important because it actually lists the various kingdoms within Africa. It also talks about Alada Kingdom. Alada was an Ewe kingdom before it was conquered by Dahomey. But although we know that the Dahomey are kin to the Ewes, but nevertheless, Alada was conquered by Dahomey. But prior to that, this book talks about two kings of Alada who bore the name Yesu. This was in the 1400s, which is very important because this is before slavery and before colonization. This was before missionary attempts into Africa. So, and somehow two other kings had used the name Yesu. You understand? And Yesu is what Yesu, the name Yesu is what most sub-Saharan African peoples refer to Yeshua or Jesus by. This is our indigenous local name for Yesu. Okay. So it's very interesting that the two kings would have that name. Hebrewisms of West African. Hebrewisms of West Africa. Oh my goodness, I cringe when I see this book. I cringe. I wonder about the informants who informed this author, Joseph Williams. Because there are so many fallacies in this book. It's unbelievable. Some claims about the Asantes being indigenously circumcising, that's a fallacy. Some claims, he even talks about the Asantes referring to their brothers as Efo, which we all know, in Ghana at least, that Efo is brother in Ewe language, Ewegbe. So and many more. There are too many fallacies to count. And you can see that he takes a pejorative tone when speaking about the Ewe people. So I wonder about his informants. This man was lied to. This Joseph Williams, poor guy. He was definitely he was definitely lied to. Derek Lang, Derek Lang, Ancient Kingdoms of West Africa. This one is a good book because he talks about the Ghana Empire, the ancient Ghana Empire, and how it was destroyed by the Moorish Almoravid Berbers, who were imposing Islam, which brought about the destruction of the Ghana Empire. This one is important to the Ewes because in our oral tradition, it says that we exiled or migrated from the Ghana Empire by following the Nile River, which is what Derek Ling also talks about, that with the Islamic impositions, it depleted the kingdom, and many of the inhabitants went down south by following the Niger River. So this one is a good resource for us. The Oyo Empire by Robin Law. Robin Law is also a really good author when it comes to West African histories and things like that. So yeah, the Oyo Empire. I saved this one to read. I haven't read it yet. This one is a novel, The Slave Girl. It's about a Yoruba girl. So the setting is in Nigeria. The Septuagint. I like older versions of the scriptures, the manuscripts, the older manuscripts. I prefer those, or at least I like to compare them with today's, King James, NIV, RSV, what have you. So I do have a printed copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls and of the Greek Septuagint as well. I also have an interlinear biblical Hebrew and English Bible as well. A tool that I really like to use is called BibleHub.com, which is BibleHub.com, because because they have interlinear Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, and English Bibles there, as well as interlinear Greek and English. So it helps me with my research. The Navy Surgeon, again, John Atkins. Narratives of 5 years expedition. The Cro-Magnon language of the Jamaican Maroons. This one's not a book, it's actually an audio recording. It's actually I think it's a video. Yeah, it's actually a video recording. And I was curious. So I was curious about the Maroon language. I was curious about Maroon languages. And so I came across this one, and some people were claiming that, Samarkand's were claiming that the Maroon language or Chromanti language in Jamaica is actually a Kan language. It's Twi. And so I wanted to see for myself because I do have some knowledge of Twi language. And I was, disappointed. It was not Twi because you can't even decipher. The the guy in the video um, was pretending that he could understand, but I could tell he couldn't understand anything. Which is what should be expected because most Creole languages are actually a mixture, an amalgamation of various African languages and even some European words. Okay, so that's what's to be expected. Not straight up one single African language. Okay, so we should be able to hear some Twi in there. We should be able to hear some Ewe in there. We should be able to hear some languages from the northern part of Ghana. We should be able to hear some Yoruba in there, some Igbo, and what have you, Kikongo, or what have you, all the places where people were taken from and brought over there. The Negro and the Jew. And this one, I believe I haven't read it for a while, but this one, I think is the one that says that the Negro and the Jew can be found in the same person, something like that. But very interesting. Yeah, definitely read this one. The Land of Fetish, History of the Negro Race Traits and Tendencies, Dahomey and its Neighbors, A Vanished Dynasty, Ashanti Fetish House, A History of the Gold Coast. Again, there's so many books about the history of the Gold Coast. Yeah, and this is one of them. Okay, and this one is on abolition, anti-slavery reporter, and Aborigines. Okay, 7 years service on the slave coast of West Africa. Yeah, this one is okay. Ashanti Law and Constitution by Rattery, R.S. Rattery. This one is okay, but another really good resource for Ashanti law, or let me just say Akan law, such as Ashanti and Achim and all those, their law and constitution. A really good resource for that is J.B. Dankwa, who is the uncle of the former president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo. So J.B. Dankwa wrote on this topic. He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer and a historian. Voyage du Chevalier des Marchais. Voyage du Chevalier des Marchais en Guinée. Okay, this one is really good. It was written by a Catholic priest, Père Labat. And in this book, he actually gives biblical references and compares them to our customs and traditions. So, really good one. Okay. Black Jews in Africa and the Americas by Tudor Parfit. This one is a really good one as well. Tudor Parfit talks about the Igbos, talks about the Lemba, and their Hebraic practices as well. So this one is a good one to read. And of course, the African Americans. Amazons of Black Sparta, the women warriors of Dahomey. Yes, this one talks about how these women warriors used to sow terror in the hearts of European soldiers. And they compared them to the Spartans. The Western Slave Coast and its rulers. This book is very important for all other people, wherever you may be. In this book, they actually give the line of succession to of the kings of Dahomey, the kings of Alada, I believe the kings of Ouida as well, and of Oyo. So this one is really important. It has some maps in it. This one actually has a full map of Eveland, which stretched from the western coast of the Volta River all the way to Ogun River, that is that is also all the way to Ogun River and Lagos area. So this book is highly important. A Mission to Glele, King of Dahomey. Yeah, this one is okay too. Yeah, the only thing I don't really like about this one is how they just emphasize on the unaliving of people, and I tend to think that they go overboard as far as what they're describing. It doesn't make sense that they would be putting that number of people, they would be unaliving that number of people. And the way they describe it, is just, you know most of the times these Europeans make such gory descriptions in order to promote the slave trade. You understand? So, and that was the case for John Atkins, because he was a very prolific slaver. And even the case of A.B. Ellis was a war mercenary. His father was a mercenary, and he himself was a mercenary. He was always being sent by the British Crown to go and cause chaos and terror and all that thing. So that guy was really fixated on gore, and unaliving. Coming of age in the second half of the 20th century. This is an Ewe author. His name is D.E.K. Amenume. I have other works of his as well. The abolition of the Brazilian slave trade. Yes, this one is important as well because, as you know, Brazil got a lot of Ewe people from the slave coast. Before they started transporting them to other parts of America and into North America, they were initially transporting our people into Brazil by the masses. So yeah, a lot of the blacks in Brazil are actually Ewes from the slave coast. And in history, some of the people, a few of the our people who were taken to Brazil actually came back. They came back to our coast, and they were known as the Aguda. In Benin today, I think it's a yearly celebration of the Agudas. Impressions of West Africa. I haven't read this one yet, but I think I started reading it, um, and I just never finished. But it's there in my favorites, so I can always go back to it. The Royal Navy and the Slavers, the suppression of the Atlantic slave trade. Yeah, the abolition didn't go over very easily, right? It didn't go over for the slavers, and it didn't go over easily for the slavers, and it didn't go over easily for the slaving kingdoms such as the Dahomey, the Oyo, especially the Asante, because the Asante were so much invested into it. But anyway, Agotime, her legend. Okay, history of Africa from earliest times to 1800. African native music. Primitive law. I don't know who they're calling primitive, but it's not us. It can be us. Four African political systems. African experience. Status and use of African lingua francas. Historical Dictionary of Ghana. The Slave Coast of West Africa by Robin Law. This one is a good one too. In this book, Robin Law writes about the domesticated pig not being found on the slave coast, not being found within Ewe land, and it was brought in by the Portuguese, right? So that tells us that the Ewes did not have pigs in their diet. They didn't eat pork. Okay, that was not part of their diet. They domesticated goats and sheep and cows and fowl, but they did not domesticate the pig. And that speaks to our Hebraic customs as well. Okay, a book called Togo, a book called Ewe, which we know it means Ewe, African Voices of the Atlantic Slave Trade. And here's another one, Sacred Sites, Kinship and Marriage Among the Anglo-Ewes. The Anglo-Ewes and their systems is a really good reference to the whole Ewe, the whole of Ewe land, because the Anglo-Ewes tend to preserve the customs and traditions very well. Gender, ethnicity, and social change. Sandra Green is also a very prolific author when it comes to the Ewe, the slave coast, and such like. Dahomey and the Dahomeans. The Abutia Ewes. This is also a very good anthropological work. Aux sources de l'histoire et des traditions Ewe. This one is a very good one. This one is in French though. Another good resource for Ewe history is a book called L'Histoire des Togolais, and it's written by Gaibo. It's this book, L'Histoire des Togolais. It's written by Gaibo. This one is you can find a PDF copy of it online. So just Google the title and the author, and you should be able to find it. And let me not forget to mention a book called History of the Ewes by Charles Mamata, published in 1976. This book is hard to find. I had to do an interlibrary borrow, and after I read it, I had to send it back. I did take a few snippets of some pages that were important to me, but yeah, I couldn't find where to buy it. So if somebody knows where to buy this book, let me know, because I would love to have a copy of it. Or if anyone has a digital copy, please do share it. Share it with me. Thank you so much. Fanti customary law. Memoir of the reign of Bosa Ahadi, king of Dahomey. And then last but not least, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. This one is a very good book. It talks about our Black advancements within Africa before European intervention, and how the Europeans used to come to learn. They learned medicine, they learned architecture, they learned so many things from us. You see. Yeah. So that is it for this page, for this website, the website called archive.org. Now, I mentioned that I do have a library, a bookshelf as well, where I have my prints, the printed books, notably The Ewe People of German Togo by Jacob Spieth. This book is a treasure trove for all Ewe. So whatever you can do to get this book, you need to get it. Okay. And another thing, one thing I like about Spieth is that he was one of the very few who was telling the truth about the Ewes. He went around interviewing people and simply writing down what they told him. And another thing I like about him is that, being a missionary, he noticed the Hebraic customs, and he always gave scriptural references whenever he came across our customs. So very, very interesting. All right. Another one is, okay, an Ewe author, Mauli. This book is called The Bible is the Black Man's History Book. You can Google it and you'll be able to order it, or find where you can order it. The Bible is the Black Man's History Book. It speaks specifically about the Ewe people and their Israelite origins. Okay. And he has several books, but another one of his that I have is called Venya, which speaks also directly about the Ewe and their Israelite origins. So let's look at another author, Only Love Chika Alston. The book is called Prophetic Whirlwind, Uncovering the Black Biblical Destiny. This book is very important because Only Love actually traveled to West Africa before writing this book. And she writes about several West African groups, several African ethnic groups. She writes about the Ewe people, the Ga people, the Igbo, the Yoruba, and so on and so forth, and our Hebraic customs. Okay, so this one's a very important one. Another one is Hebrews to Negroes. This one is in a series. So the author has a series and also has documentaries that are based on the series. Okay. The author's name is Ronald Dalton Jr. So it talks a lot about the Israelite origins of the sub-Saharan Africans, and of course that means of the diaspora, the African Americans, and all those who were taken from us. Okay, and last but not least, this book right here, Hebrews, Africans, or Does It Matter? The author is Rodney Jones. So look for this book as well. This is another book that talks about the Israelite origins of some of the sub-Saharan African groups, including the Ewes. Okay, so this is it. That is it for now. I do have a list on Google Books. That's another way of reading these old books for free. So, but my list on Google Books is not as long as this list here. I tend to resort to this one more than any other. All right. Yo, thank you all so much. Yayira Nami. Blessings to you.